Welcome everyone. Today's topic is Standard Unix Permissions. My name is Grant McWilliams. Standard Unix Permissions are what we use to grant permissions to files and directories in Linux. I've prepared a scenario for you where we have Bill and Ted in the marketing department. Their job is to make the company sound amazing. Jane is in the statistics department, and her job is to gather data from various other departments of the company and put them in a central location so the marketing department can access them. Jane will need read, write, and traverse permissions to this directory. Traverse permissions allow her to go into the directory. The marketing department will only need read and traverse permissions. From a permission standpoint, it looks like this. The name of the directory is going to be data, the group owner is going to be marketing, the user owner is going to be Jane, and the user owner's permissions will be RWX. That's read, write, and execute. On a directory in Linux, execute permissions denote traverse. For the group owner, which is marketing, they're going to have read and execute only. There's a few things that you should know about Unix permissions. Number one, files can only belong to one user. Number two, files can only belong to one group. Number three, groups hold multiple users. Number four, permissions are assigned to the user owner, the group owner, and other. Other permissions are for everyone else, so be very careful. The workflow for this scenario will be create the users, set the users' passwords, create the marketing group, add Bill and Ted to that group, and then verify everything. And we're going to verify by checking the files where these things are stored. That would be the etc password file, the etc group file, and the etc shadow file. Once we've done that, we'll create the directory structure. We're going to set the ownership of the data directory, and we'll set permissions. And of course, the very last thing is we'll test it. For this exercise, we're going to be using CentOS Linux 7. I'm going to log in here as a normal user, since I don't want to log into the graphical interface as root. First thing I'll do is I'll open up a terminal, and I'll elevate my privileges by using SU to the root user. You see my prompt changed. I'm now the root user. And I get a nice little security alert at the bottom as well. The very first thing we need to do is we need to create our users. User add Jane. User add Ted. User add Bill. It's very fast on the command line. We need to set their passwords, and it'll ask me twice for the password. There we go. I'm going to set the password for Ted. And we'll set the password for Bill. If you don't give a strong password, it'll complain. Now let's verify this. The file we're going to look at is the etc password file. It stores the user accounts. We look at the very bottom. We have Jane, we have Bill, and we have Ted. Second column is their password, but obviously the password is not X. It just means that the password is stored in the etc shadow file. The user ID is 1002. The group ID is 1002. That's their primary group. If Ted makes a file, that file will belong to that group automatically. Then this is Ted's home directory where his personal files are stored, and his shell. Okay, and the same for the other users. We're also going to add view etc group, where the groups are stored, and we can see that we have a Jane group, a Ted group, and a Bill group, and here's the user IDs 1001, 1002, 1003. So, in summary, the Jane user automatically belongs to the Jane group, the Ted user to the Ted group, and so on. We need to create a new group for our marketing department. So we're going to do group add marketing. We'll view the etc group file again. We can see now we have a marketing group. The group ID is 1004. To add people to this group that already exists, we're going to have to do the user mod command. We're going to modify the users themselves. The -A is for append. We're going to add this group to the groups that they already have. Capital G is for supplemental group. We're going to add marketing for Bill, and we're going to add marketing for Ted. So now Bill and Ted should belong to the marketing group, and we can verify that by adding etc group again. So we see at the very bottom, marketing group ID is 1004. Bill and Ted belong to that group. All right. So now we're going to cd to /home, and we're going to create our data directory. We can do a long list on that. We can see the initial permissions and ownership of the data directory is the user owner is root, the group owner is root, and then these are the permissions. We need to change everything here. So we're going to do chown, that's change owner, to jane.marketing data. And we'll verify it again. Now we see the data group is owned by the Jane user in the marketing group, and the permissions are still not correct, so we'll change the permissions now. Chmod, this is change mode, user equals rwx, and then the file is the data directory. And to change the group permissions, we're going to say group equals, remember that we only want to read and execute for the marketing group. And we can verify that again. We have the data directory is owned by the marketing group, the Jane user, and now Jane has rwx, the marketing group has rx, but we see that other still has read and execute, so we'll have to remove those permissions. Chmod other minus rwx data, and there we have it. Perfect. The data group is owned by the right people, they have the right permissions, and we can test this by changing our users to Jane, and we can test it out. We can say home data. She can go in there fine. We're going to create a file, and we can see that the file exists. She's able to write files in that directory. So we'll exit, and let's try Bill. cd home data, and he can see the files in there, but when he tries to create a file, it says permission denied. So there we have it. We've created it, we've created the users, and we set their passwords, we created the marketing group, we added Bill and Ted to the marketing group, we verified everything, we created the data directory, we set the ownership of the data directory, and we set permissions, and then we tested it, and it worked great. Thank you very much for listening.